this vaccine? How much does it cost? Many questions that come to mind, but the one that is quite prominent: has our way of life changed forever? You're watching To The Point. I'm Ayman Salah, standing in for Dina Osman. Tonight, we get more answers from our guest, Professor Dr. Donia Sheir, Professor of Microbiology, Immunology and Nutrition at the National Research Center. Pleasure to have you with us on the show.
The pleasure is mine.
Before we start, we have a report that we want you and our viewers to watch, and then we start our discussion. As vaccines roll out, the number of infections and death rates soars worldwide. Over 73 million are infected, with 1.6 million dead so far. Last November, US company Pfizer and Germany's BioNTech gave people some hope with their breakthrough announcement of positive results of their clinical trials on the coronavirus vaccine, showing 95% effectiveness. The vaccine, which must be stored in -70 degrees Celsius and transported in special boxes with dry ice and GPS trackers, is a new type called RNA and uses tiny fragments of the virus's genetic code, which the body's immune system recognizes as foreign and starts to attack. On December 2nd, Britain became the first country to approve the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, and on December 8th, the first dose of the vial was administered to 90-year-old Margaret Keenan in Coventry. A few days later, Moderna announced the discovery of another vaccine, which it claims is 94.5% effective. This is easier to deal with because it stays stable at -20 degrees Celsius for up to 6 months. Following trial results, emergency authorization by the FDA for the vial is expected later this week. Recently, AstraZeneca announced it is also developing a vaccine in collaboration with the University of Oxford, which initially was 70% effective and rose up to 90%, adding that it is expecting an emergency authorization this month by the Food and Drug Administration to start manufacturing. Pfizer announced its plans to produce 50 million doses and Moderna 60 million before the end of the year. The vaccine will be administered in 2 doses per recipient. China's Sinopharm created another vaccine via a more traditional method of using an inactive virus to trigger an immune response. Other trials are also expected in the coming weeks, and data on Russia's Sputnik V vaccine suggests it is 92% effective. And the quest to find a cutting-edge vaccine is keeping pharmaceutical companies on their toes in the race to face one of the gravest pandemics. A number of questions raise themselves. Who will be vaccinated first? Countries authorizing the administration of the vial have started drawing a priority list of who should be receiving the vaccine first. Will it protect everyone? Are there long-term side effects? And, on a scary note, the new strain of coronavirus, which was recently discovered in the UK. Will this new mutation be contained with this vaccine? Or are we back to square one? All right, so time to start getting answers, and as we introduced earlier, we have with us on the show Professor Dr. Donia Sheir, Professor of Microbiology, Immunology and Nutrition at the National Research Center. Pleasure to have you with us on the show once more. Are the vaccines, is it a commercial race?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, exactly. But there is now a joint initiative between WHO, Gavi, and CEPI to...
Gavi, the General Authority for Investment here in Egypt.
Yes,
and?
Yes. And CEPI to guarantee that all the countries will get the vaccine. For example, no country will take a vaccine more than 20% of their own population before other countries. And there is also stages for this distribution of this vaccine for each country.
So in each country, there is a priority list, can we say?
Yes, there is a priority list. We can say that the vaccine will be distributed on 3 stages for each country. Stage 1 will be targeted 3% of their own population, including the healthcare professional or the healthcare workers. Stage 2 will include 20% of the population, which are the people aged over 65 years and the people with underlying health conditions. Stage 3 will be for the other priority groups.
Such as?
Maybe such as the other chronic patients.
Okay, so there's a clear line on who should get the vaccine first.
Yes, exactly.
There are, I wouldn't say rumors, but there is news that some who, either in the trial phase or at the start of the vaccination process in England and in the US, have suffered some setbacks from the vaccines. Is this the case? Or is this a part of misinformation campaigns that are going around?
Okay. Let's see in the traditional vaccine development timeline. The traditional timeline for any vaccine should take about 10 years. Okay.
The timeline,
the
trial line.
The trial line should take 10 years, including the preclinical studies and the clinical studies. Okay, all these steps are in consequence. When we finish the preclinical studies, for example, it will take 1 year, so we will move to the other step, which is clinical one in phase 1 in clinical trials, and phase 2 and 3, and then phase 4, which is the marketing phase. Okay. So these steps takes 10 years. We have already vaccines. How many vaccines do we have till now? We have
around 10, I believe, 10 companies?
Yes, these are the top 10, but we have already worldwide 198 vaccines. Okay, out of these 198 vaccines, 46 vaccines are on the clinical trials. What you have mentioned, the 10 vaccines are in phase 3 clinical trials.
So they shrunk the 10 years into the 10 months.
10 months, yes. So all know...
So what you're saying is basically expect side effects, because the 10 years shrunk to 10 months, so there will be side effects.
There will be, sure, there will be side effects. And we all know that many medicinal preparations has been withdrawn from the market after 40 years. People
in the market, yes.
In the market, yes.
And yeah, we hear about medicine that are pulled off the shelf, yes, after many, many years.
After many, many years. Okay, they discover that there is severe adverse effect, and they outweigh the benefit-risk balance. There should evaluate the balance between the benefit and the risk of this drug or this medication. For example, if they discovered a contraindication, not all the drugs, not all the defects or the adverse effect, so the authorities withdraw this drug from the market. They can add a warning label on this drug, such as "Do not take this medicine if you are suffering in case
Right.
For example.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Ah.
So I remember in certain years, one used to take the flu shot. And then the next year, one is eager to take the flu shot again, but they say, no, 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 don't take the flu shot because there's a new mutation, it's a change in the virus, so the old shot that you took will not work this year. In the corona case, the COVID-19 case, how many different mutations do we have? 8 so far?
So far, you mean, yes, and more than 8. We have about 10 mutations.
10.
10 mutations.
So
yes.
what makes me take a certain shot, a certain vaccine? Will it work on the 10? Are the trials covering the 10 different mutations? Or is it focusing on one? So if one gets COVID-19, gets corona, and he takes a vaccine, or before he takes the vaccine, this is not what works on him. How would we know?
Okay. As you mentioned, that the flu virus vaccine, okay, each year it's different, okay? They monitor each year the changes in the genetic material of the virus, and consequently they change the vaccine, or they update the vaccine according to this change. And the mutation in the virus is a normal process, okay? Not all mutations are dangerous. The mutation could lead the virus to be weaker or stronger according to the site of mutation and type of mutation. So we don't know, and this is also we have to say all the time that even if there is a vaccine, we should keep physical distance between people. We shouldn't get infected, because the infection can lead the vaccine, can lead the virus to mutate, because it reacts with the genetic material and enters the cells and makes copy of itself, and then transfer to another person.
Which is expected, especially this season in Europe and in the US specifically, with Christmas and the New Year coming up.
Yes.
Isn't that an expectation? You have a country like Germany that went into lockdown. You have Europe so far has not allowed the vaccinations to go through. The US has started, but you have warnings of Christmas gatherings and New Year gatherings. Are we expecting further developments after this holiday season?
Yes, already there is a new variant in UK, which is responsible of the spread of the virus. It is different, and the infectivity rate is higher than previous. So we have already a new variant in UK.
That has already appeared before the holiday season.
Before the holiday season, before the Christmas, before any gathering from any kind. So it is expected.
What's the situation here in Egypt? Now, what is understood is that the Chinese Sinopharm vaccine landed in Egypt.
Yes.
How is this process going to go through?
Actually, any vaccine is evaluated according to 2 criteria. Its safety and antigenicity, okay? Immunogenicity. It means that the safety can be detected from the results of the clinical 3 or from the phase 3 clinical trials, okay? And also from the technique that is used, or that vaccine is based on this technique, okay? We have several techniques. And we have several platforms for the vaccine development. We have virus vaccine, we have vector vaccine.
All right, let me stop you at the vector vaccine because I don't know what that is, and I would like to know more about it. But first, let's go to Dubai, where we're joined by Professor Dr. Ayman Noureddin, the head of the Federal Pharmaceutical Education at the WHO in Dubai. And correct me if I'm wrong. A pleasure to have you on the line. And first, let me ask you, where is the WHO in all of these? In all of this vaccination race, the competition between the different companies? How will we make sure that developing countries and poor countries will be getting the vaccine and will be handling the situation?
Thank you, sir, for inviting me here, and my pleasure to be here with you guys. To answer your question, David, about the WHO, the WHO is very keen to have fair distribution of those vaccines to those countries who are able to purchase it or buy it. And fair distribution is the key word in this type of approach. Through the COVAX program, this is a real well-organized program within the WHO to make sure that all of these vaccines will be purchased, and the money actually is now well prepared for that. And the goal is to have at least 20% of the population of the underdeveloped countries who are unable to purchase that vaccine to get it. So when we have 20%, this is a good percentage that we can have it as a first step for those countries.
All right. Now, one of the issues that come to the forefront for many people is, since the vaccine has emerged and since there is a race to provide the vaccine, then it's all over. No need to worry about COVID-19. Is that the case?
We hope that's the case, but we are not expecting that we are going to wipe out the COVID-19 infection, because this epidemic, it looks like it's going to stay like the flu infection that happens every year. But what we are doing right now is trying to make sure that those 20% of this population, those who are in need for that vaccine, i.e. the first line, front line healthcare providers, and also elderly and those with chronic diseases, those who are really affected by that vaccine, because those elderly and chronic disease patients are the ones who go to the ICU or go to the hospital. Otherwise, the rest of the population, not normally, we don't go to the hospital. The progression of the infection is not that much for them. So we are focusing on that 20% of the population. If we achieve that, we are safeguarding the community from this type of dire effect of this infection that can lead to death at many stages. So this is an initial goal. Hopefully, later on, once we have more than one vaccine available, and then the production lines are really well established, especially in the local countries, like for example here, we are preparing to produce ourselves, the Sinopharm vaccine. And through the bacteria, we can do that. And I know that the Ministry of Health, they make sure that we have the capability to do that. And the WHO actually came and began to inspect the facilities and make sure that everything is okay. So this will happen in Egypt, maybe in India will do the same thing. So we have many production sites besides those major, production sites like Pfizer, Moderna, China, and Russia, and India. So this way we can have a complete cover of most of the population later on. It will take some time, but we start with the first stage for the 20% population. I think this is a good goal and achievable goal for us.
One final question, Dr. Noureddin. We've been following the courageous candidates that started taking the shots, those who have been vaccinated. what would you tell me in order to encourage me to take the vaccine with all the side effects that have been reported and with the side effects that can emerge that are still not tracked?
It is just simple. You can just weigh the benefit versus the risk. The risk is especially for those who are elderly and with chronic diseases. The risk is dire, is really bad, because we have at least 80% of them, they go to the hospital for sure, and some of them in the ICU, and some of them die. So this is a high risk. You can't risk that. This is your health and your life. At the same time, the other side is the risk of the side effects of the vaccine, which is, if you weigh that, you find that it is not that much, because the reported side effects are very minimal. We talk about simple, increase of temperature, simple body ache. It just, it goes, within a couple of hours or maybe days maximum. But that's it. And this is classic for all of the vaccines. When you have the vaccine, you can have even irritation or inflammation at the site of the injection. You have these simple effects, and these are minimal. So if you look at that, you find that the risk of not taking the vaccine, especially for those high-risk people, is really overwhelming. And it makes sense that you take that vaccine. And if you look at the side effects, no reports of side effects that are really, or serious side effects that are reported till now. Although we had a quick, clinical studies, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, but all the reports are studied well, and very precise data and conclusions were drawn out of these, studies. And that's why when you say that FDA approved it, it doesn't approve anything without real, very precise, keen follow-up on the data and making sure that this drug or vaccine is safe. And the same thing happens also with the Ministry of Health here. We cannot approve anything without making sure that it's safe. And safety is the key. So I can assure you that we are now in good shape, because till now there is no real bad or serious adverse effects. Maybe you can mention the evidence of those patients.
Dr.
Yes.
Ayman Noureddin, head of Federal Pharmaceutical Education in Dubai with the WHO. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm sorry I had to cut it short, but we're going to go for an update of our top stories, and then we will return with our guest, Dr. Donia Sheir, Professor of Microbiology, Immunology and Nutrition at the National Research Center, here in To The Point with Dina Osman. We'll be back.
زي ما كل إنسان بيدور على عنصر الأمان في حياته، الكمامة هي عنصر الأمان اللي بتوفر لك الحماية من